drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Doctor on Call. Yes, your regular Tuesday evening program at this time, of course, where we bring you information pertaining to your health and, of course, information that can help you to make better or the best health decisions to keep you living as long as possible. All right. This evening, well, actually, we started 2 weeks ago because February is Cancer Awareness Month, and we started looking at cancer of the colon, and we had Dr. Bertha Bradford with us then. Last week, we spoke about cancer of... What did we speak about last week, Doctor? Which one did we look at? Just for a moment there, I went totally blank and I cannot remember.
Me too, and I remembered earlier.
I just went totally blank and I don't remember which one we spoke about last week. What is wrong with us? I think we need to get, we probably need to get Dr. Pancho in here to have our
we need some jinko. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. I don't...
It's even up to now. It has left to me.
It's gonna come back.
It has left to me. Nevertheless,
leukemia.
That's right. Leukemia. Leukemia. That's it, folks. Leukemia.
And I guess that lends to why we should speak to the other things, because sometimes you forget that they exist.
Very much so. Very, very much so. So, folks, this evening, Dr. Nixon is with us, as always, and we are going to look at cancer of the throat. In fact, in recent times, I would say within 10 years, I've known personally 2 persons who died as a result of cancer in the throat. So it's not
sad. You know why? You know why that is sad? Cancer of the throat is one of the cancers that can be treated, can be cured.
Yeah.
So that is why it's very sad. And we talk again about early diagnosis.
Definitely. So we're going to get to all of that. But first of all, Doc, it's so good to have you back. To always have these discussions and to help provide information to our listeners that can help them to make good choices. And you just mentioned that this particular one can be cured. And of course, I'm sure by the time we finish, our listeners and viewers will be better equipped with the choices that they make so that they can prevent, or if for some reason you're experiencing symptoms, you know what to do. So, Doc, welcome back.
Well, it's glad to know that you have my back. That's what you say? You have my back, or you have my back? Which one? I don't know what you Grenadians talking about.
You know what? Just to make a long story short, I've got both.
Okay, thank you, darling. Good evening, Grenada. It's really good to be here, even though there's a little rain. I know I'm convinced that I live in a rainforest because it rains every day. But it's really good to be back. I know people in Carriacou and Trinidad and Brazil are reveling. Last lap tonight. I hope everybody's been safe and taking precautions to ensure that we're here for the next carnival next year.
Yes, indeed. So tonight, Doc, as I said last week, we looked at leukemia. And I was quite pleased because we had a significant number of viewers on our Facebook page,
Did we?
yes, paying attention to the program and going back and viewing it and everything like that. And I trust that we would have the same or even more this time around. One of the things that saddens me, Doc, is that important information like what we share on this program, I am not satisfied that enough people are paying attention. And sometimes we see the outcome. Information is available, but somehow, there are those among us who prefer to use our time to involve in scandalous information rather than information that can help us as individuals to live better and to better develop ourselves. So I hope and pray that what we share tonight will reach quite a lot of people. Already, we have our friends from Canada and the US. They've all joined us, and I'm happy that they always yes indeed. So tonight we're talking throat cancer, which refers to cancer that develops in your throat or pharynx or voice box. And that being said, let me hand you over now to our expert in the field of medicine. Doc?
So I'm going to start with my favorite throat cancer story. I'm a young physician working in the ER. So it means about a year and a half, 2 years out of medical school. And there's a man who's really very affable, who's still my friend. I wouldn't tell you how many years later, but he's a pharmaceutical rep. In other words, he goes around selling pharmaceuticals. But he'd always come to talk to us about what they sold. Incidentally, he sold things like Claritin and Clarinase and allergy medications, right? Things related to respiratory tract. But I noticed that every time he came, he'd come in the afternoon. I've seen him some mornings, but most of the time he'd come to the afternoon to check us in the ER, and he'd always lose his voice. And I said to him, "What's the story?" And he says, "Boy, so what you think?" I said, "I don't know, but you know all the ENTs in town. I think you should go see somebody." He says, "But, it's been happening. I just haven't paid any attention. And I think it's because I'm talking so much." I said, "I think you should go and ask a certain physician to check you."
Right.
Who was his good friend. And because he worked in pharmaceutical respiratory drug, they spent a lot of time, hanging out and all the rest. And this is a guy who must have been in his late 40s, early 50s, late 40s, I'd say. And he said, "You're right. I'm going to check him." And he calls me, and I said to him, "Make sure he looks down in your throat and look at your voice box, right? Because he don't really sing. He smoked. I can tell you that much, right? He smoked quite enough. And he went to the doctor, and he called me a week later. I said, "I want to hear what's going on." He called me and said, "Sons, you were right. I have a nodule, a lump, on my larynx, my voice box, which is basically a set of muscles set up in a special way so when the air comes through, we can make sounds, okay?" It turned out, after the biopsy, he had throat cancer.
Oh, boy.
So you want to ask me where he is today? Ask me where he is today.
Where is he?
Happily retired and doing fine.
Great.
Cancer treated, cancer cured, and he's fine. And he said, it's funny because the doctor said, it's a good thing I came.
Good news.
And I think we spoke about a year ago, after 30 years of him being, having had a diagnosis. And I say that to say that early diagnosis does save life.
It does.
I know it does save our life. I know that we still are afraid, that we don't want to know what happened. I was telling a patient today, don't be afraid to know what is going on, because you have to take power. So let's talk about cancer of the, we call it throat.
Yes.
Well, if you want, and the throat is a big place, okay?
So we can just put it in the context so that yes.
Yes, I want people to know, because your throat is not just that piece where it's solid, it's the other tissues around. Your throat has the upper part, the back of your nose, or the nasopharynx. It has a pharynx, and then down the neck itself, okay? So it has a pharynx, where it has the back of your neck, the back of your nose, which is the nasopharynx, nasal as in nose. It has the back of your tongue and stuff, right? Which is the oropharynx, and it has the lower part above the voice box, which is the hypopharynx. And cancer can go anywhere there, but it tends to happen mostly in the oropharynx. Although what we are more accustomed is what you know, which is the one where your voice goes and all the rest of it, right? Because you get nodules on the larynx, which is that thing that makes noise. So you can have the voice box and all of those being affected, and the vocal cords, and then you can have just above it and just below it. So when you divide it anatomically for a surgeon, there's a lot of different components, a lot of different parts, right? And so maybe what the symptoms that you would have will vary depending on where it is.
Yeah.
So what is also very important is that the whole area is lined with very thin, what you call squamous epithelium, very thin. Same thing lined inside your mouth, same thing that lines up in your nose, right? Very thin. One cell, right, of tissue is the lining.
Right.
Guess which organism likes that kind of tissue?
Viruses? Yeah.
HPV, human papillomavirus.
Okay.
So whether you get in a cancer of the cervix, the uterus, or in the anus, or also that's the kind of lining that you have on that tissue. It has a special liking, a special predilection for that kind of tissue. Thin epithelium, squamous epithelium, flattened cells, right? So it's like you had a cherry and you flatten it out.
Right.
A fruit and you flatten it out. Squamous epithelium. So when we're looking, we have to look for causes and what symptoms we're going to find, right? But first, who would get cancer of the throat? Of the throat. Well, not people who really sing, because I don't think we sing enough to get to fix up the voice box. None of us really, not very many of us sing for a living, okay? But we know that the human papillomavirus, the same virus that causes cancer of the cervix, can cause us to develop cancer of the throat. That up in the back of your nose, down to where your voice box is down here, so you can actually feel it a bit up, right? And not few of us would have seen people who put a thing on their butt and it reverberates because they've lost their vocal cords. Because it is quite likely some people have had surgery because they've had an accident and they fixed it or whatever it is, and some people have actually had cancer and have had to have their, some of them must really remove them. Becomes not as functional as it should be, right? Other things that can make us develop cancer of the cervix, of the throat. Smoking. So, who might most likely have challenges because of smoking? Older people, because they smoke a lot, or because they used to smoke, right? Other to that, we find that people who have cancer of the throat because of HPV are the younger population, usually in the 50s. Okay? There are young people under 50 who get cancer of the throat. And smoking may be the cause. Okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted because there's a donkey brain in my community. I'm sorry. I live in the country.
I didn't know tongue have donkey dog.
But I live in tongue, boy. That's a tongue donkey.
All right.
Just coming from Caribou, didn't want to sing Caribou for Carnival. Right?
Okay, yeah.
People who smoke, especially people who smoke and consume alcohol. Sounds like our older population of males, doesn't it? So it means that they're at a greater risk. But the nutrition and all the things that can make your whole body's defense system not work can also contribute to you developing cancer of the throat. Anybody in your family has had cancer in the throat, you're at risk. Okay? But people who are exposed to things like nickel, I'm sorry, really distracted by this donkey. People who work in like mining and nickel and stuff, people who work in asbestos, and we don't have a lot of asbestos being used currently. Asbestos used to be used a lot for roofing, used to be a lot for boat building, but it's has been eliminated as a material for any form of construction, because it is known to be a carcinogen, a substance that causes the development of cancer. I'm just saying it for our population to understand and to know when they hear the word.
Indeed.
What does it mean?
Yes.
Okay. So, and the other thing, so people who work in sulfuric acid, I guess that people who work in industrial areas where they do lots of cleaning have used sulfuric acid and inhale it, right? We know that sulfuric acid exposure can actually be one of the things that make us likely. And of course, men. You know any woman who has had cancer of the throat?
I have,
actually, I don't know anybody.
I don't know. In fact, I told you earlier that I knew two persons, and they were both men. And one of them I knew drank, consumed a lot of alcohol and smoked. And the other one, not smoked, but consumed a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. So we in those we can see risk factors, but the studies are also showing that those are the things. Men, 50s and up. Not that you cannot have cancer, because I know of a young person currently who has cancer of the throat. All right. If you smoke and drink, even if you smoke alone, and I guess if you drink, but if you drink, if you do both of those things, your risk is higher, yes, significantly, right? If you have your lifestyle practices, people who practice oral sex. You remember, there's a certain movie star, very well-known movie star who developed throat cancer, Michael Douglas, several years ago, probably like a decade ago, and then he spoke that, you know, because of he indulged in that lifestyle practice. And I mean, to each his own, right? I'm just saying that we know that puts you at risk, right? He got diagnosed early. He has been treated, and Michael Douglas is a normal life for the most part. But he has had, and he became an advocate for the whole early diagnosis and prevention of cancer of the throat. So, what would make me so suspicious? What do you think, though, would make me think that I have cancer of the throat?
But, Doc, just before you go to that...
What symptoms do you think someone has?
Just before we go to that, Doc, there's one interesting one that I came across. A diet lacking in fruits and vegetables can also be a risk factor.
But remember I spoke about nutrition?
Yeah.
Right? Because, and again, here in Grenada, and even within the diaspora, we tend to use a lot of, we like our provision and we like our meat and that kind of stuff. The bottom line is that we have to diversify our needs, and we've been asked every day to include, make sure you have proper nutrition, proper vitamins and other micronutrients that are very important for health and well-being. So nutritional causes we shouldn't omit. So thanks for that. All right. So for the most part, sometimes there's no symptom. You know that. People walk around for a little time and they have their whatever they have until one day they start to feel discomfort. What are you likely to feel? Pain, itchy, itching at the back of your throat, constant secretions because you have an inflammatory process going on, right? So you have postnasal drip, you have, discomfort in the back of your tongue, changes in your taste, difficulty when you're swallowing, you might have pain to swallow, but you might depend on where you are. If it's extensive, where the tumor is, it might be actually hard to swallow. If you have a large tumor in your oropharynx in the back, directly behind your tongue, right? You can have, or even the tongue is difficult to swallow. Of course, the voice thing is the voice box. You can be hoarse. You can have high-pitched voice. The vocal cords have been affected. So those are some of the symptoms you can have. Okay? You may already be experiencing pain in your ear because you have spreading into the tissue closer into the ear. You may already have spread to other tissues, lung, etc. So those are the basic symptoms that I can think of that you're likely to have. If you have advanced disease, you may also have weight loss, as with other cancers. So we have to look out for all of those. But remember, you have to take into consideration the risk factors, right? I could just have tonsillitis. I could just have something else that's going on. But am I at risk? Have I been smoking? Have I been exposed to smoke? Am I drinking too much? Did my grandfather have cancer of the throat? You know, what's been happening to my voice in the last year or so? So those are the things you have to consider.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we spoke about the risk factors. Prevention. How do we prevent? And we sort of briefly touched it, but there are some specifics that I think we can probably look at. We're advised to stop smoking, or don't start.
Avoid smoking, yeah.
Don't start. Very interesting. If you smoke, quit. If you don't smoke, don't start, because we know that stopping smoking can be a very difficult thing. We know people who smoke,
and an expensive practice.
Yeah,
but
and they say that
should also be something. Smoking cessation is something we don't talk a lot about here, because you think, so many people smoke, but it doesn't really matter how many people smoke. They how many people too much. Okay, because smoking is something you really should avoid.
Right.
I think we still kind of okay. That is not really. It's not made to be sexy. We don't talk about like when we talk about drinking alcohol. We don't advertise. I think we're not allowed to advertise tobacco, although we still can advertise alcohol. But tobacco is not allowed to be advertised. I'm not sure about data related to smoking other things like cannabis. But I imagine whatever smoke.
Well, smoking in all its forms is dangerous, and yes. Cannabis and so do contains carcinogen. Because studies have shown that cannabis smoke does contain carcinogens.
It's not exactly water.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But I want us to spend a little time, Doc, on the HPV, because it seemed to be a major factor in the the whole throat cancer thing. So let's maybe just spend a few minutes on HPV again, because having it can also lead to that. So maybe we can just probably touch a little bit on what it is, and how you can prevent it, so that you can prevent cervical cancer by not having HPV. In other words, you can kill two birds with one stone. So you can prevent cervical cancer and also prevent throat cancer if you protect yourself from HPV.
So thank you. There's a thrust globally, and certainly here in Grenada, there's a push for us to avoid the spread of HPV. And we know that HPV is spread by sexual contact. Okay? Mm-hmm. Unless you use somebody else who have HPV in their throat, toothbrush, you shouldn't. But HPV is spread human papilloma virus. Mm-hmm. We said it likes the tissue like the lining of your mouth, your nose, the vagina, the cervix, the rectum, squamous epithelium, that's called. One cell that's kind of flattened out and cover those areas. So the HPV has a special liking for that. How do we prevent it? By primarily avoiding coming in contact, or if you should come in contact, not being infected. Mm-hmm. So I want to start. I'm trying to frame this in the most simple way. We talk about having one sexual partner. Okay? Mm-hmm. If neither you or your partner has had contact with anybody else, it's unlikely that you will contract the virus. Okay? We're talking about sexual intercourse, and because people have same-sex practices. So if we have males, same-sex practices, use of condoms and stuff, because that's how it's spread, by sexual contact. Mm-hmm. People are asked to avoid oral sexual practices, because the reality is that it's on the genitals of the person you may be having oral sex with. But there are other things apart from abstaining from sex. We've been asking our parents to inoculate their girls so as to prevent cervical cancer. And there's a lot. I probably can get 5,000 phone calls tonight about X, Y, and Z. The truth is, the research has shown, and the Australians can tell you, with their eyes closed, that they initiated their HPV vaccination among their girls. And they're probably down to 0.3%. So that's 3 people in 1,000 who may get cervical cancer in a year, right? In Australia. Currently, they have no deaths that recur because people don't have. And who has is being treated early because they also had a screening program that went with it. So the Australians can attest, right? They have testimony and paper and research to show that, hey, we vaccinated our girls, vaccinations were accepted, and we have seen that there's no more HPV. So that's something I'm going to ask parents and grandparents to consider. Here we only vaccinated girls because the program was against cervical cancer. But boys can get HPV from their sexual practices. But if a boy grew up and had intercourse with a girl who hasn't been vaccinated, or a much older person who has never been vaccinated, we know that also that HPV, you may get it and your body may be able to eliminate it, deal with it, kill it off, and it goes its way. But we don't know who it will stay with and who it won't stay with. So, hence, we have to take precautions. And I tell mothers, vaccinate your boys, not only for that, but also to prevent other things like throat cancer. Should your son indulge in oral sex with somebody who is infected, doesn't really develop cervical cancer, but because the HPV virus is there. I'm not sure which of the varieties of HPV I'm sorry, there are lots of insects going on. Of the HPV virus, because they're different strains, right? But I'm not sure which of them. I know that 16 and 18 are responsible for cervical cancer. I'm not sure which is responsible for throat cancer. But we know that's the defending atom, right? That will come, the offending atom, that will come into your system and cause it to develop throat cancer. So, vaccinating our young men, maybe a thing, since older men are more likely to have throat cancer. And of course, because men are also more likely to drink and smoke. So,
right.
HPV is a reality, and we know. We haven't spoken about it a lot yet. And I guess in our population, we haven't done a whole lot of studies in our population as per what is the real cause. Maybe if we were to swab the throats of men who come up with oropharyngeal cancers, with throat cancer, not oropharyngeal, or would be in front of the tongue and in front of the tongue. But pharyngeal and lower neck cancers, we may find that there is certainly HPV present.
Right. So, Doc, let's take a short break. When we come back, I want us to look at diagnosis. When should someone visit the doctor? The diagnosis, treatment. So, stay with us, folks. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family, yes we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now. We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carriacou. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys. We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy.
Your life is yours, your future's in your hands. Your body is yours, that's why you need a plan. You gotta plan your family, avoid HIV, get the education from the Grenada Planned Parenthood Association. We offer STI screening, gender-based violence counseling, prenatal and postnatal checks, injectables, condoms, pap smears, and other sexual reproductive services. Open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Pointe Street, St. George's. Whether male or female, it doesn't matter. We're here to make your life better. Grenada Planned Parenthood Association. For appointments, call 440-3341.
A GPPA clinic may be in a health facility in your area. Information can be found via Facebook at the Grenada Planned Parenthood Association. Clinics are in partnership with the Ministry of Health and GrenChap. This ad is sponsored by Canada Fund for Local Initiatives.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Spicile Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Spicile Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. Here's another little known fact. Spicile Imaging has 3 centers. We operate at Grenville, the Carnage, and at the Ocean House, Grandlands. We provide the widest range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, x-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today at 444-7679 or 440-1500 or visit any of our 3 locations. Spicile Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Dr. On Call, and in case you're just joining us, we were happy to have you. And of course, those of you on our Facebook page, you can also post your questions there if you have, and we will definitely try our best to answer it. Those of you who are on radio, you can also use our WhatsApp number, 435-2041, if you have any questions, and we'll definitely address them. All right. A little later on, we will open our telephone line so you can get to call, and share any experiences or ask questions if you will like to. So we're discussing throat cancer as part of Cancer Awareness Month. Doc, when should someone visit the doctor as it relates to, feeling some discomfort or you're not sure, and some little thing going off in your head that you should probably go and see the doctor?
Always consider whether they are at risk. Whether one is at risk. I'm at risk. What am I at risk for? So I'm a male over 60. I smoke, I drink. Okay? I don't really take very good care of myself. I work in a factory where they make all kind of foolishness with, and you have to clean metal and whatever they have to do, right? These are also sulfuric acid. I've had family who has had something, but recently and ongoing, my throat just don't feel so good. I have a little pain. As a matter of fact, guess what? There's a little lump on my neck, on the front part of my neck. Okay? I'm hoarse. The symptoms that appear that can be, I have a little difficulty to swallow, like we said earlier. And when I swallow, it doesn't hurt, but I just know that I'm swallowing. Because generally, you swallow, okay? if you have like a sore throat, it might burn a little, but after 3-4 days, that goes away. But progressively, it's just there because it gets more and more difficult for me to swallow. I see lymph nodes or glands, as we call it, right? Those are some of the symptoms. Go to the doctor. And what we have to look out for, what we are required to do is ask patients questions, probing to figure out what exactly is going on. We as physicians, that's our responsibility. Have some index of suspicion based on the patient's risk. Be suspicious. Boy, let me make sure that it's not this, or let me make sure that it's this, so we can deal with it early. Again, it is important that you go. I give you the story at the beginning of my friend who had just been getting hoarse for about like 2 years. So when I talk in the evening, by evening, who thought that it was because he was a salesperson and because he was talking to a lot of clients. He had, he was just getting hoarse. His voice box, his muscles in his voice box getting tired. So, your doctor should ask you what you eat, what you drink, your sexual practices, all of those things that can contribute to the possibility. And he should examine. He should look at your throat. Put a light in there and look. Open your mouth wide, He can't really see, send you to the ENT, the ear, nose, and throat specialist. Yeah, we do have one here for the 100,000 of us, but is go to your GP first, because at least there are things that he can do, right? And that's and from there, the specialist will take on. You do regular blood tests. But remember, there are other things that can make you feel like that. That is not necessarily throat cancer.
Yeah, that's right.
But let's make sure it's not that, because we're going to be this and be here 30 years later and 40 years later. Last I asked about a guy, probably a year or two we spoke, and I've asked friends, and he's quite fine. Okay? Now, what do they do? What symptoms will you have? Hoarseness? Okay? I said difficulty to swallow. Air pain. Because remember, it's all of inside that place, right? All of it. From the back of your nose all the way down here, right? That's throat cancer. So if you have a cancer that's growing on the side of your throat, it can block off your air. So your hearing can have challenges, it compresses, or you could just have earache because this thing expanding the tissues in the air and you're having discomfort. All right? And of course, you can have breathing problems. What if it goes down and it starts obstructing your respiratory, right? So you can also have cough. So those are some of the things that should make you suspect, right? And then, of course, in advanced disease, we may have already weight loss because this thing has gone to very distant places. What do we do to figure it out? How do we diagnose? The truth is, a lot of the things that we need to do are going to be done by either a surgeon or the ENT specialist, who's a surgeon, ear, nose, and throat specialist, the otorhinolaryngologist, right? That one, that guy with a long name. But the truth is that they have to do specialized investigations to ensure. My goodness, I'm having a lot of problems with insects tonight. So, they want to know, they want to take and if they find a lump, they want to take a biopsy. Even if they find a piece of flesh, tissue, that look a little different, they want to take a biopsy. What is a biopsy? A biopsy is exactly that. A piece of tissue around the area that seems affected, that they take, cut into very, 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 very fine slices, and look at it under a microscope. Somebody specially trained to do that, a cytologist or a pathologist who has cytotechnic abilities, right? Capabilities, puts it on the microscope, looks at it, and see if there's any changes from what normal cells should look like, and tell you what's going on, right? So, what kind of biopsy you can do? You can just go and, take a piece of the tissue in the general area, right? Just cut it and take a piece. That's an incision biopsy, right? Or you can do an excision biopsy where you look for the borders and try to take out. Let's say it's a lump that's there, like on the vocal cords. You could go in and take it out, and then slice it up, put it on the microscope, and see if the borders are clean. In other words, if there's absence of cancer cells up to the beyond the borders or not. Okay. Right? So if there's no cancer cells beyond the borders, you say borders are clean. Right? If there are cancer cells, you say, well, it's in a different, it's spread. right? I'm not going to go through classifying where, you know, whether it's a stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. I don't think that's necessary here, but know that stage 1 means that it's contained, stage 2 means that it's out of that containment, and stage 3 means that it's far, and stage 4 means it's gone all over other places like other parts of your body, right? So, and then they can do a fine needle. So you have an excision, you just cut piece, okay? Sorry, an incision, you just, an inside you cut and take a little piece.
Yeah, a little piece of tissue there.
Right, and then an excision biopsy, you try to take all of the tissue out, especially when you have lumps. Find the borders, cut a little beyond the borders, take it out, check it and see if you got it all. And then you can have a fine needle biopsy. Just that. Have a specialized needle, they anesthetize the area, they push the needle in, and the needle is a needle. The needle has something inside of it, right? So you push a needle, the needle is not as big as my hand, but it has a little trocar inside, a little thing that you push in.
Yeah, and it collects, yeah.
You take a little piece of tissue, right? Without spreading it all over the place, and that is what you look at, and it'll tell you what is there. So those are the 3 kinds of biopsies that we do, right? And then, of course, the doctor can do what we call endoscopy, looking inside.
Yeah.
Where he's going to look up in your throat, where he's going to look down inside your throat, look in your larynx, look wherever. It's always all endoscopy, okay? Look down to your chest. It doesn't matter where he's looking. Endo means inside, scoping, scopy.
Yeah.
Okay? Endoscope. And then there's imaging. You know, imaging means where you take pictures, however we can. Ultrasound's not going to work here, and X-ray is probably not going to work here either, okay? So what you need is things like CAT scans, which are a little more advanced forms of X-rays that gives you borders and depth. So a CAT scan, right, takes, you know, if you have a book, it takes a picture on one page, a picture on the next page, a picture on the next page, so you know exactly. So if it starts on page 1 and it ends up on page 66, it'll tell you 1 to 66. I'm just saying the dimensions, right? How deep it goes. But it takes pictures at different levels, all right? So that's a CAT scan. And we don't have PET scan, which is kind of new. We don't have that. Who has CAT scan? There's a CAT scan machine available at the hospital now. There's a CAT scan available at SpyCell Imaging and one available at SAMS, right? We do not have, we have magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, which is a more form of scanning, and that's available. And then there's some X-rays that you can take. Okay? Just some X-rays will tell you where. But scanning is probably better because it gives you depth and width and gives you an idea of all the dimensions. It's like being a surveyor. Tell you where this is, where that is, where that is, where that is, right? Or you say, the land by the mango tree, going to that motel tree in the back and going down so, right? It says, that's your area. All of that is your area. It surveys the area and tell you where your challenges are. Okay? And like we talked about endoscopy, looking in and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
How do you know you have cancer? After all of this, the doctor has to take a piece of tissue that looks funny, piece of flesh that's there, that looks funny, piece of the flesh that don't look like it's normal, right? Where the symptoms are occurring, and do a biopsy. Without a biopsy, you can only suggest or imagine or guess that that's there. A definitive diagnosis is having a biopsy.
All right, you know? The tissue and so. All right.
That's what's
so. Right. So, Doc, that was done. The biopsy was done. A piece of tissue was collected, checked, and there were the cells looked abnormal. What's the next step?
The cells look abnormal. Once you do a biopsy, they'll tell you what is there.
Right.
And depends on the kind of biopsy you do, you would know whether you've gotten all of it or not. If you do an excision biopsy, you may or may not, but it will tell you where it is. And then you could, like I said, you can do scans. The scans will tell you how much further out it is or not. And also, suppose you had a stage 4, is it just up to your head and neck, or is it down in your chest? All those kind of things. The next thing is surgery. Almost every cancer, especially early diagnosed cancers are treatable by surgery.
Okay.
At least surgery is the first intervention. You try to get rid of whatever malignant cancerous tissue exists in whatever part of the body. So that's the first thing to do. If you cannot have surgery, whether it is because it's far gone, you may have to be subjected to other things like radiotherapy and chemotherapy. The truth is, most people still get, especially radiotherapy. But I want to advise Grenadians why we need to go early, because we don't have radiotherapy on island. And radiotherapy tends to be a little. Radiotherapy is where they put like a ray, right, over the tissue. Sometimes they can do it from outside. Sometimes they put little beads of radiation material in the tissue, and it kills all the cancer cells. So that's why it's like you're burning it, like you're torching it, right? Basically. But we don't have radiotherapy facilities in Grenada. You have to go to Antigua and Martinique or Trinidad or Barbados. And just the ticket alone is expensive. So.
Oh, yes, indeed.
So those are the things. And of course, chemotherapy. So surgery, right? And sometimes chemo and
radiotherapy.
Chemotherapy is when you get medications, whether you get it by mouth or you get it in your veins. That's chemotherapy.
Right. There is immunotherapy as well.
There's immunotherapy. So immunotherapy is a little more well directed, especially now that we know we have HPV. We can see how it's made up. Which cells, which genes are there, and we can target it directly. Right. But immunotherapy for us is still a little ways off because we don't have immunotherapy around here. It is available, right? But we don't have it. People go away and get it and get a therapy and come back and take the medications while they're here or go every so often and get it. But there's immunotherapy. I forgot that.
Right. So, Doc, we have a patient that has been screened, checked out, a biopsy, diagnosed with throat cancer. He's been treated. Let's talk about the process, the treatment, how long it may take, and then the process of rehabilitation. Because that is also
rehabilitation is very important because we often forget in cancer management the whole issue of rehabilitation, and not just rehabilitation, treatment and reintegration, going back to do your normal life, going back and becoming as relevant as you can be, right? Can you go back to work? Can you take care of your children? Are you well enough? Let's say you are. In the case of cancer of the throat, because often there's a lot of invasion, surgery, there's always almost always a need to have surgery. Tissues are removed. It means that you may have challenge with your voice, right? Right. You may have challenge with just simple swallowing because you remove some of the mechanisms. And so people need swallowing rehab. They need to be taught how to swallow, right? They need to be taught how to speak, how to articulate. And that's even if you don't remove the vocal cords. Once you have invaded, you have to go back and teach them over how to speak, how to pronounce, how to make words, because some of it is missing. If people have loss of part of their face, depending on how invasive the cancer is, right? You might have to have reconstructive surgery. You might have to have, if it's so bad, you may have disfiguration. Just get in psychotherapy to deal with the changes, the physical changes in a world that's not kind to people who are different, right? So those things are very important that they are done, that we understand all the needs and look at it holistically. Tell people to eat, what to eat, right? Or we can have porridge, but porridge, you have to swallow porridge. Porridge don't just disappear and go down like a wafer into your system. That's not how it is. And if you're eating a wafer, there's saliva and other stuff. You have to make sure. People who have had laryngectomies mean that you remove the larynx completely, the vocal cords, that they put the thing and the neck and they speak, right? They have to learn. You have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to articulate, how to make your sound so that people can understand you again. You have to learn how to keep if you have a tracheostomy, meaning that the trachea is open, the trachea is a windpipe that is open, and because that is what's going to be that's what's going to allow you. You have to still let the air pass, right? To be able to articulate. You have to learn, it can be a little unpleasant to look at. And this is with all due respect to the people who have tracheostomies. But they have to learn how to toilet, how to keep it clean and healthy, not allow flies and gunk and all this stuff to go in there. Because they still have to eat, so they have to make sure that they know how to swallow so it doesn't go down into the air, into the respiratory system. So there's a lot of rehabilitation. And of course, the mere act of coming back into work, into your normal life, being accepted into your life again, deal with your self-esteem after your loss of your voice, or part of your face, or part of your neck, or whatever it is. There is a lot of rehabilitation that is required.
Right. So let's take our final break. When we come back, we're going to open the telephone lines and take some questions from our listeners and viewers. Stay with us, folks. We'll be back in just a moment.
Have you heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue, available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family, yes we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
We're back! Grenada's Wester Hall White Jack Workboat Regatta 2023, Saturday 25th and Sunday 26th February. 2 days of hard racing and fun fetting on Grandad's Beach. It's We Regatta with Wester Hall Rums. Sponsored by Wester Hall White Jack Rum, Grenada Tourism Authority, NLA Blast, Carib, the official Regatta Bear, Budget Marine, SIFH Group, Glenelg Natural Spring Water, the Regatta Water, McIntyre Brothers and Yamaha, Camper and Nicholson Marinas, Brighton and Miners with Campery and Smirnoff Vodka, Ramdani's True Value and Harris Spain, Coca-Cola Grenada, Flow, West Hall White Jack, Workboat Regatta, 25th and 26th February, Grandad's Beach, we rum, we regatta, be there.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joints and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with a doctor, physiotherapist, and a massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Spicile Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Spicile Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. Here's another little known fact. Spicile Imaging has 3 centers. We operate at Grenville, the Carnage, and at the Ocean House, Grandlands. We provide the widest range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, x-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today at 444-7679 or 440-1500, or visit any of our 3 locations. Spice Cell Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Okay, welcome back, folks. So our telephone line is open. The number is 435-2041. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, you can definitely do so. Our telephone number again, 435-2041. Telephone, we have a call online. Dr. and call, good evening. Yes, good evening, caller.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. We're hearing you.
Hello?
Hello?
Is there anybody there?
We hear you.
Yeah, caller, we're hearing you. Go ahead, please.
That is so true. No on the call.
Hello? Okay, well. We seem to have a little issue there. All right, so 435-2041, that's the number you can call, and you know, you can get to ask your questions or share with us whatever you know, thoughts you may have. Doc, while we wait on our callers, I just wanted to go back a bit, you know. Someone with the discomfort who is intent on visiting the doctor or the ENT specialist to find out what's happening. What sort of preparation should they make for their appointment? So before going to see the doctor, what are things they should take into consideration?
Before you go to the ENT or any doctor, doesn't matter.
Yes, yeah, doctor, yeah, doesn't matter.
But you know, a doctor's going to tell you have to stop smoking because you don't really want your doctor to go down in there with all the smell of the tobacco and stuff that's there. You know, proper hygiene, because you just don't know what's going on in there. Your doctor might send you to do bloods, and you may have had blood tests done recently, so you would want to take that along with you. Any imaging that you may have had, you want to do that with you.
What about things like medication that you probably might be on for?
Yeah, well, your whole medical history. You want to walk with that. You know, I saw one of my patients did. I'm so very proud of that one because she's going because she has to go for surgery. I referred her to see another doctor, right? And she passed by today and she said, "Look, I have on medications. This is what my blood is like. This is my sugar readings are like." And she's struggled. That woman has struggled. I mean, in such a, I'm so gratifying. I'm so grateful to her for being such a good person to work with, to get her blood sugar controlled. And she could walk. She says, "You know, here am I going to the doctor. I'd never believe it would come to this, right?" But she was prepared. She had all her medications, all her blood results, everything with her to take to see the specialist. One, it means that she doesn't have to do them over. She has them already. Two, she knows her history. So you kind of need to know, you know, who am I, what has been happening in my life, and be prepared to tell the doctor why you're there, why you think, what is your concern. And above all, I tell my patients all the time, everybody I talk to on TV and radio, make sure you write your questions down. There's no stupid question. If you have questions to ask, say, "I have a few questions I'd like to ask you." Right? And sometimes, you know, we have other patients, we might feel like you're being pushed out. No, you need those few moments to ask questions. Dealing with something as throat cancer can be very difficult. All of us, almost all of us, need our voices for whatever we do. It doesn't really matter. Even to say good morning at work, right? Even to talk to our grandchildren, right? Even to when we pray a group, it doesn't really matter. We all need our voice. Our voice is what makes our presence felt. We talk, we engage, we share information, right? We share laughter and fun and all this stuff. So we kind of need to make sure that we can preserve it. one of the things I forgot to tell you too, you may go to the doctor and the doctor might just, your tissue may be infected. So your doctor might, in treating you, might have to put you on a course of antibiotics before, because, you know, there might be infection on tissue that's already, you know, broken and swollen and all the rest of it. So that's one of the things that may happen.
Right. And for those of you probably wondering, well, you know, what am I going to ask the doctor? Let me just share with you maybe a couple of questions that you can probably consider. And that doesn't necessarily mean for throat cancer. Any condition you go into the doctor with, you may want to ask a doctor about what is causing your symptoms or condition. Are there other possible causes for the symptoms? So, for example, there are conditions that may present in a similar way. You know, so these are things you can ask the doctor. What kind of test do you need to do? What's your best course of action? What are the alternatives to the approach that you're suggesting? You know, I have these other conditions. How can I best manage them together? So, for example, if you have, let's say, the throat cancer, you're diagnosed with that. You probably might have asthma. You might want to ask the doctor about things like that. So you know, it is good, as Doc said, you know, pay attention, think about it, think about what is happening to you, because sometimes our bodies speak to us, you know. It's just that sometimes we don't pay attention, but our bodies speak to us. We don't listen. Doc, let's go back to the telephone. I think we have a caller. Let's see who is with us. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. The number again, 435-2041. If you have any questions you would like to ask, you can give us a call, and we'll try our best to see how we can help. Also, you know, you may want to find out if there are restrictions that you need to follow. Maybe if there are things you shouldn't do. All of these things are important. Let's try the telephone again and see if we get through. Doctor and call, good evening.
Hello.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Yes, I have a question I would like to ask the doctor.
Sure.
I started that question some time ago, but I didn't have the time to follow. Now, we have had instances where we hear somebody died after they have taken a particular treatment, they died from underlying conditions. I would like to know what is referred to as underlying conditions. Why? And does the doctor know what those underlying conditions that would make a treatment fatal? And do they test the patient to discover whether or not they have anything that is underlying that could make the treatment they intend to take fatal? Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
All right. So can you just...
Right. So she's saying that there are instances where she's heard that some medications or some treatment that some people have taken, they've died because of an underlying condition or underlying conditions. So she wants to know what these underlying conditions can be, and if doctors do any kind of test or checks to see if a patient or patients have underlying conditions before they put them on a particular treatment.
So that's actually a very good question. We kind of broached that question a while ago when we were talking about what do you do when you go to the doctor. Other conditions. So let's say I went because I had a sore throat, right? Are you here today? I'm here because, let's say you come to my office. Oh, my throat is stretching. I'm having a sore throat. It may not be cancer in me, okay? I'm having a sore throat. You really should ask everything about a sore throat. Okay, how long you've had it, blah, blah, blah. You supposed to drink, blah, blah, right? But then you want to, are there any other illnesses? Those are things that are there that may or not contribute to the disease that you come to the doctor to check out, the condition that you come to the doctor to check out. Some of them can contribute. So, for example, let's say you died of kidney failure, right? What other conditions you can have? You can have hypertension and diabetes. Okay? There are other things, the underlying conditions that that contribute. But you could also have gout, which does not contribute to your kidney failure, right? Unless the medication further causes damage, right? Or you can have cross-eyed, okay? Or you can have allergies, nasal allergies or asthma, right? So they may or may not contribute to the cause of death, but it's just other things that are there that are not necessarily why you're being seen, or that may or may not contribute to your demise. I hope this answers the lady's questions.
All right. Yes, indeed. So, for example, I think what is also very important, Doc, is that patients also need to make it their duty to inform their doctor or the physician about, you know, any condition they may have. For example,
yeah, and I ask, and I tell you, sometimes patients forget, or there's some people just omit. But between you and your doctor, there should be nothing that's private. Okay? And let's say you came to me and asked, are you allergic to something? And said, no, I'm not allergic to anything. And you know full well you're allergic to milk, for example. And there's one medication that we use for asthma, which is excellent medication, but people with milk allergies can't use it.
Right.
So you need to have full disclosure when you go to the doctor. You need to remind the doctor, hey, this is but above all, you need to know about your own health and life. And sometimes some people can't disclose because they simply don't know. Okay? They simply do not know. So those are the challenges.
Right. Let's go back to the telephone. Doctor on call, good evening. Hello. Yeah, caller, you need to turn the volume of your radio or TV down and listen on your telephone. Hello.
Let's go back to the telephone. Doctor call, good evening. Hello.
Caller, are you there?
I want to have that.
Yeah, can you?
Hello. I'm losing you, Godfrey. Your volume is going away.
Yeah. Caller, are you hearing me? Okay,
our challenges tonight.
Yes, we are. I have a question here. Someone says, good night. What determines a patient getting chemo oral or through the veins? Which one is more effective? Can any cancer be treated by oral chemo? Doc?
So, certain medications do handle certain cancers better. And so that's a call for your doctor. There's some cancer medications that are not going to take care of your disease and they by mouth, and some medications by mouth that work for what you have. So it depends on what you have, and sometimes if both, your doctor try and give what is most cost effective, what is most easy for you to take, what causes less side effects. So it's a very individual thing.
Okay. All right. Hopefully we can get through with the call. 435-2041. And callers, what you can do for us when you're calling, turn the volume of your radio or your TV down and listen to us on the telephone. All right. If not, you'll be a little confused. You would hear us delayed and not be sure what is going on. Let's try again. Doctor on call, good evening. Hello. Good evening, caller.
I'm not hearing anything. So
we're hearing you, caller. You can go ahead.
Just sparkle. No voice. Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear us?
Clearly, yeah, we're having some challenges. Yes, we're having some challenges with our telephone tonight. We are. Hopefully, we can get it to work. There was someone, Doc, on our WhatsApp platform who was asking, good evening, what if someone has problem swallowing food. I guess they trying to figure out whether or not if that problem can also be connected to maybe symptoms of throat cancer.
Yeah, so difficulty swallowing is one of the problems with throat cancer. If you have a lump or swelling in your throat, it's going to affect the mechanism of swallowing. So you really should go look at it. And after surgery, again, after you've been treated, you may have just as much or more difficulty and have to be treated. You literally have to be taught how to swallow again, because you can actually have accidents and fatal accidents where, you know, food goes into your windpipe or so.
Okay. So caller, we hope that
I hope that answers
your question. All right. So Doc, someone who has gone through probably radiotherapy or chemotherapy, and they're in the process of rehabilitation, recouping, getting better. Let's talk a little bit about palliative care for someone like that.
So palliative care is care that's given to people who may not recover from the disease. It's really care that's given to make people comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We don't have palliative care centers or hospices or respite centers here. So most people do their palliation at home. Okay? It includes, again, teaching people to swallow, teaching people to talk so they can communicate while they're here. And of course, it includes making sure that they have enough pain medication, because pain is often one of the things that people with malignant diseases, with cancers, experience later in their lives. So palliative care is really keeping people comfortable. Do some people come with palliative care? Yes, they do. Some people do. But it's that time where you have people who are trained to help you to be comfortable as you can. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We do not have a palliative care center. We don't even have, we're working, I know it's being worked on currently, getting a pain management system set up, so we don't have abuse of pain medication, which is one of the things we'd rather not people have. So let's say I have cancer and I have to get, the medication like morphine and stuff that you need to get, but it must be managed carefully so that people don't become addicted, because the substances that help you with pain, some of them can become quite addictive because they take away the pain and they make you feel fine.
Right.
You'll always want it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So that's a situation we have to keep in balance so that you don't suffer pain, but at the same time you don't suffer food at the end of the day. And if you recuperate, not able to engage in normal life because you have another major health problem, which is narcotic addiction.
Right. Okay. So, Doc, we basically getting close to wrap up time. What I'd like us to do.
So before we go to wrap up time, still out. There's some things I want to talk about.
Yeah, sure. But I wanted, and then we'll just sort of just summarize what we spoke about, and then we'll wrap for this evening. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So last week we talked, and I'm going to talk about it again tonight, because the whole thrust on childhood obesity, preventing our children from being overweight from their lifestyles, between what they eat and what they do. Our children are still required to exercise, run up and down and play for 30 minutes at least a day. Unfortunate, and our children include all school-age children up to 5th form. Okay? And if they have the habit, that will happen. But our children are required to be active for at least 30 minutes a day. Run outside and play. Play ring-a-ring-a rosy, run up and down, take away the phone, let them go outside and play football and jacks and whatever it is that keeps you active and happy and laugh and breathe, and that your physical health is okay. And of course, by choosing what our children eat, no sugar sweetened beverages like those that come bottled, the pretty boxes that they tell us in the supermarket we should buy. No, there's fruit and there's water, which is actually the best beverage for our children growing up. And we have a lot of coconut water hanging around. And we can make fresh juice from fruits without dosing it with sugar. All right? Eating too much fried foods, especially some of the cheaper oils that You have to make sure your oil doesn't contain any trans fats, which translate immediately into cholesterol, which we don't want. And giving our children proper portions, because we tend to give our children a lot. They don't have to eat fried chicken every day. They can eat fish. They can eat baked chicken if you're going to give them chicken, and small portions. You would find that if you cut smaller portions for your children, cut out their food and get them to eat it slowly, that they would eat this. So childhood obesity is a major concern for us, not just in Grenada but everywhere. Here, why? Fat children are often fat people. Obese children grow into be obese people. Okay? Why are we worried about obesity? Because it contributes to almost every chronic disease that we know. Hypertension, diabetes, and what comes from those, renal failure and kidney failure and everything. But it also contributes to cancer. So in this Cancer Awareness Month, I want people to remember that we have to focus on making our children not so fat. Okay? We have to focus on making our children not fat. We have to focus on keeping away from the sugary drinks. That's totally unnecessary. I see it's Barbados, who on April 1st, as of April 1st, by law, no sugar-sweetened beverages to be sold in school. By law. So that's a good move for Barbados. And I'm sure it's something that we can follow easily. Okay, I know the past Minister of Education had alluded to that, but we need to have teeth, right? And if you're going to tell the children they can't drink sugar-sweetened beverages, you're banning sodas or whatever in school, you have to give them an alternative, because they still need to drink fluids in the day, especially if they run up and down for half hour. All right? So that's it. So, Rotary Club with Ministry of Health, with other Rotary clubs in the Caribbean, recognizing World Obesity Day. World Obesity Day is the 4th of March, but here in Grenada, we're going to have a walk it's quite likely from Roy St. John Field down to Quarantine Park, which I think is a wonderful place to go with your family. Children run up and down, play. It's healthy, it's fresh air. There's no toxins in the air except when I'm playing Passover so often. It's grass, there's monkey bars and slides and sandbox and swings and merry-go-round things that children like doing, playing with, and running up and down with each other. Yes, it's only St. George's that is available, but we're going to get better as we continue this fight. So a walk-on is on Sunday the 5th, not on the 4th. The 4th is World Obesity Day, but Sunday the 5th is when there's going to be a walk from Roy St. John to Quarantine Park. Okay? So we'll talk about that again, but I'm asking people, we're going to have t-shirts. You're going to hear the t-shirts being sold, I think they're between $35 and $40, and that will be available to everybody. But childhood obesity is all of our problems. Those of us who are already obese, those of us who have children, grandchildren, cousins, niece, students, this is everybody's business. Okay, so we expect that people will turn out just to do this health walk with the Rotary Club of St. George's. And Rotary Clubs in Grenada in general, the two clubs, are on Sunday, March the 5th, and it starts at 4 o'clock. There'll be a lot more information in the media and stuff as we go along. So thank you. See you guys there.
Right. I have a question. Good night. What determines a patient getting chemo? Did we? I don't think we answered that. What determines a patient getting chemo orally or through the veins, and which one is more effective?
No, we did that. We answered that.
We answered that one. Okay.
And the truth is that most patients who have I just want to extend it a little further, because you may have surgery and it may excise everything that is cancerous, right? But it still give you some other form of therapy, chemo or radiation, depending on what is available. So almost invariably, after you've had a cancer, you may get some therapy.
Right. So someone is asking, Doc, good evening. Having problems with the telephone call. Here's my question. So the person says, first time they're catching this program. Is the doctor local or overseas? I swear, she resembles my mom. Her voice, mannerisms, and vigor.
Thank you.
And
Well, I need to meet my other child.
and they said also she doesn't. Well, the name doesn't show up on the TV screen. My producers need to have Dr. Nixon's name on the screen. That is a given. So for you, caller or whoever you are, or listener,
Thank you for your compliments.
her name is Dr. Sonia Nixon, and she is local. She operates on the second floor at the Bruce Street Mall on Melville Street in St. George's.
That's Bruce Street, boy. That's Bruce Street. Bruce Street Mall is in Bruce Street.
Bruce Street.
But that's good.
My apologies. Yes. Bruce Street. Well, I thought Melville Street was the entire street coming all the way.
Melville Street is after that junction. Melville Street. Part of it is part of the mall is on Melville Street.
Okay. Well, you need to give me a crash course in
the street goes back towards the tunnel from coming off. What's that street? It has a name in it. That's not Gore Street. That other half of the street between Halifax Street and down to where the mall is, down to the Esplanade, have a name. And I saw it yesterday and I still don't remember. Because I thought all of that was Gore Street. Gore Street ends up right at Gore Street is between Grenville Street and come along Longstep. Gore Street is between Grenville Street and Halifax Street.
Okay. All right. So Doc, just briefly, on cancer of the throat, some quick symptoms and how we can prevent it.
All right. So cancer is of the throat, although it may not be common, happens. And like every other cancer, early diagnosis will save your life. Okay? Having a idea, being suspicious that you may have a challenge, especially if you're male, over 60, or let's say over 50, if you smoke, if you drink, or if you smoke and drink, especially a lot, if you have a family who's had cancer of the throat, if you don't lead a decent, healthy lifestyle, and if you engage in oral sex, since your partner may have human papillomavirus, right? You're at risk. What do you look out for? Sore throat, changes in your voice. You can even get, your voice can go. You can get hoarse, you can get a little higher pitch, right? Or my voice might go in and out. In fact, what happens a lot is that your voice starts off good in the morning and by evening you have no voice. Even if you don't talk a lot. Once you use your vocal cords a little, it gets very tired very quickly because you might have lungs growth. Throat cancer is cancer inside of your neck, from the back of your nose down to just under your voice box. Okay, those are throat cancers. Doesn't mean not inside your mouth, behind the tongue, and right up from the back of your nose down to your just a little under your voice box. Hoarseness, coughing, breathing problem, earache, extreme secretions are some of the symptoms. You may even find a lump. Okay, you may just have lymph nodes as well. You know the how you call them?
The glands. Yeah, the glands.
Call them glands, right? But you might find a swelling in your neck, in your soft tissue. You might see something, right? You might have difficulty swallowing, right? Those are some of the main symptoms. As with everything else, you go to your doctor. Remember to give him all the information and make sure your doctor listens. If you're concerned, ask him to send you to the ENT. If there's any suspicion, he will send you forward to the ENT. The ENT, the ear, nose, and throat specialist, would take a biopsy or a piece of the flesh that's there that looks affected. Take a pinch of it, send it to the lab. The cytologist looks at it and they tell you, yeah, oh no, these cells are fine. Oh no, these cells are fit. You just have a little sore throat, right? God, I hope that's what it is. But we look at all the possibilities, and if there's cancer, you need to have early treatment. Most times treatment is first of all surgical, and then we call it, and then therapy, radiotherapy or chemotherapy. What does the ENT do? He or she looks up and down your throat. They can take a CAT scan, they can do an X-ray, they can do an MRI, they can do a PET scan, right? Those are ways they can diagnose. But the final diagnosis for cancer of anything is taking a biopsy, send it to the lab and say, yeah, we see some cancer cells here. That's what is the final diagnosis. Okay? Nobody's going to initiate therapy nobody's going to start therapy unless you have a biopsy. Let's be real. That's the bottom line. Nobody should tell you you have cancer. Even if it's fungating in front of them, they can't tell you have cancer unless they take a sample and send to the lab. I can suspect, but confirmation is done by a biopsy. And what do you get? Well, after surgery, sometimes you have challenges. If you need surgery, sometimes you have challenges with how you speak, how you swallow, and for that you should receive some form of therapy. People need support therapy. People might have to change their diet. You may have challenges if you lose your voice. Some of the vocal cords, you lose your voice. You may have had tracheostomy or space opening in your trachea, which is the top of your windpipe, and the windpipe, sorry. And you have to have the hygiene. You have to have know that this might be a long term. You have to understand. You have to reincorporate into life generally, and of course, life as a worker. If you're still in that age, you may want to go back. You might have a job where you have to talk. You may not want to be upfront because you'd see people with tracheostomy wear a little collar, like a bib under their neck. It requires a lot of maintenance, so you have to get accustomed to doing that. The person who has throat cancer of the throat. But always be very aware that you may have a challenge and go see a doctor early. Always tell your doctor every other thing that's wrong with you. You may have discomfort and it's just you have reflux. Reflux makes you feel like you have a ball in your throat, right? Make you feel like you can't eat anything because there's this ball that feels like it's sitting there. So you need to tell your doctor all your symptoms. And you may have had medication, like I saw somebody, the doctor gave them medication for the reflux and they weren't taking it and they were having other symptoms. And they really needed to take their medication for the reflux and they're fine. Because sometimes reflux makes you feel like you actually have acid, something burning up in your throat. Take a medication and be fine. But you need to tell your doctor everything and make sure your doctor is thorough and examines you properly. You can always find a second opinion if you're not satisfied. Rehabilitation is important because life has to go on. Remember, especially in the cases of things like cancer of the throat. When you have one ENT, one that I know of, there's an older one who doesn't really practice for 100,000 of us. Remember also that it might be worth our while protecting our girls and our boys from the infection with HPV virus. At the same time, our lifestyles, sometimes we're a little liberal and people sleep with other people. Condoms are a good way to keep us from getting sexually transmitted diseases. Remember that if your partner already has HPV, male or female, oral sex might put you at risk for getting HPV in your throat. And the tissue that lines your throat is the ideal place for the HPV virus to put itself, make a bed, and create some malignancy. Yes, it may grow slowly, but it will grow. So prevention is probably the best practice. If you're already having challenges, we need to change our lifestyle, cut on the drinking and the alcohol, which is probably the drinking and the smoking. Not so much the smoking of tobacco, which is a problem, but not a whole lot. The alcohol, we just consume too much alcohol. And of course, like Godfrey said, smoking anything can cause damage to the tissue, the lining of the respiratory tract, the nose, from the nasopharynx down to the lower laryngeal area. So let's protect ourselves. Let's live healthy lives. Let's eat out of fruits and vegetables. Let's plant some more. We've had a lot of rain and it has affected, our production. But let's, get them planted and be able to have stuff that we want to eat. Let's forget the sugar-sweetened beverages. Let's forget the high-fat foods and eat natural foods that we grow, our traditional foods, and let's make sure that we can keep good health.
Yes,
and then I'll see you on March the 5th at Roy St. John Field, which is the one owned by Public Workers Union. That's where we're trying to start.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, thank you very much again, Dr. Nixon. I trust that our listeners, they were able to get some information that can help them. Yeah. Pay attention to the symptoms. Don't take anything for granted. because you just don't know. It's good to get screened, good to get checked, because you've heard that throat cancer is one that can be cured. Of course, that's if you get it early.
Can be cured, yes.
Definitely.
Early diagnosis.
Yes, indeed. So pay attention, folks. Don't forget you can join us tomorrow at 8 o'clock for our climate reality. And, tomorrow we're looking at opportunities that can come when we reduce on greenhouse gas emissions. All right. So be sure to join us for that. Dr. Al Binger will be joining us. Also, Mr. Paul Entwine. We'll also be having with us a representative from the PERC. And we will also have with us, we have another guest. Who is our other guest? Doc, you can't help me with that. I don't know what's going on with my memory this evening, but nevertheless.
Those numbers adding up on you.
Yes, they are. But be sure to join us tomorrow evening, folks, 8 o'clock for our Climate Reality, episode 4. Until then, do have a good night. All the best.